In wrestling history, there have always been individuals chosen as the future of the company. They tick all the boxes on paper: a body type Vince McMahon loves, impressive athletic achievements, a grand promotional story, and a crowd that initially cheers them on. But due to injuries, chaotic booking, changing times, or simply not connecting with the fans, they forever remain stuck in the almost category. Today, let's take a look back at those successors who were once heavily expected but never truly broke through. Let's dive in. Wrestling Sphere, go. Number 11. Sin Cara. Sin Cara, the muscular, somewhat stiff wrestler, donning his striking blue outfit and plagued by technical errors on a regular basis, was once seen by WWE as a massive gamble in 2011. Behind that mask was Mystico, the famous Lucha Libre star from CMLL, personally brought in by Triple H as his first major project. The expectations were clear: become the new masked face to fill the void left by Rey Mysterio, capturing the Latin American audience for WWE. From the start, WWE treated Sin Cara like a superstar: an intricately designed mask, a bright yellow and green outfit, an entrance with a jump from the floor to the ropes, accompanied by a signature soft blue light used exclusively for him. Each time his music hit, it felt like a superhero movie scene. On paper, this was the perfect formula to create a new icon. However, everything fell apart at the very first moment. During his debut on Raw, Sin Cara attempted his usual rope jumping move, but he got caught on the top rope, landing offbeat and awkwardly. From a mysterious, quick-moving warrior, he suddenly became a figure the audience couldn't help but laugh at. That stumble not only ruined his debut but set the stage for a series of ongoing issues. Unlike the Lucha Libre environment in Mexico, the WWE style requires a different pace, movement, and coordination. Mystico had little time to adapt. He had to treat house shows as mandatory practice, all while still being placed on television when he wasn't fully prepared. As a result, mistimed aerial moves, moves that didn't connect with his opponent, and awkward situations became a frequent occurrence. The more Sin Cara appeared, the more his name became synonymous with botch compilations rather than standout performances. WWE tried to salvage the situation, keeping his signature blue lighting in every match, hoping that the ethereal background would distract from the clumsiness. But this only backfired. Fans complained that they couldn't see the action clearly, and the quality of the matches didn't improve. Once the audience lost faith, all the theatrics became hollow. By January 2014, Sin Cara quietly returned to Mexico, taking with him the gimmick he had been promised would become a legacy in WWE. Not long after, his name disappeared from the company's roster. Once a highly favored successor, Sin Cara became a reminder of a harsh truth: without a solid foundation in the ring, no amount of flashy packaging could turn a successor's dream into reality. Number 10. Nathan Jones. Standing at an impressive 7 feet tall with muscles that looked like walking walls, Nathan Jones entered WWE with such a label as the future star that it could probably still be seen from orbit. He perfectly fit the type that Vince McMahon adored: the bigger, the better, the tougher, the better. Just shortly after his debut, the Australian giant was inserted into a major storyline with The Undertaker leading up to WrestleMania 19, an opportunity very few newcomers ever get. In the storyline, The Undertaker was portrayed as a mentor, guiding Jones away from his criminal past and teaching him how to wrestle, putting him on the path to glory. It was a somewhat human touch, especially considering that just a year prior, Taker had savagely fought Ric Flair to send a message. The destination was set. Taker and Jones would face Big Show and A-Train at WrestleMania, the perfect stage for the new pet project to shine. The crowd eagerly awaited how the rookie would perform at his first WrestleMania. But at the last minute, Jones was pulled from the match, turning it into a handicap match. He only appeared in the final moments, running in to attack Big Show to salvage something, but that was far too little compared to the big expectations for the new monster. Shortly after, Jones was sent back to OVW for more training, learning how to move and wrestle more smoothly. A few months later, he returned to television as the giant monster under the management of SmackDown's Paul Heyman, with the imposing moniker Colossus of Bago Road. His name quickly became part of Brock Lesnar's muscle team at Survivor Series, alongside another future star project, Matt Morgan. The bright lights were right in front of him, but when the match actually started, Jones barely left any mark and soon found himself tapping out to Kurt Angle. Later, during an international tour, he decided to leave the company and pursue a career in film. The giant who almost became WWE's new monster left a more notable mark with his role as Rictus Erectus in the wild, stylish movie Mad Max. Fury Road, a rather unusual ending to the unfinished journey of a successor who never materialized in the wrestling world. Number 9. Matt Morgan. Another member of the Team Beef at Survivor Series 2003, Matt Morgan found himself in a situation similar to Nathan Jones. Standing over 7 feet tall and built like a walking telephone pole, he looked like he could knock a bus out of the way if he got upset. Morgan fit the bigger is better criteria that Vince McMahon loved. On paper, he had everything it took to thrive in WWE's Land of Giants. But his career there never truly reached the heights his physique suggested. After his loss at Survivor Series, Matt Morgan floated around SmackDown, neither sinking nor standing out. He occasionally appeared as a supporting figure, teaming up with Nathan Jones or Brock Lesnar, becoming a trio that, if seen walking into an all-you-can-eat buffet, would make you quietly step aside. The future star glow began to fade, replaced by the sense that he was just a big guy still trying to find his footing. After being sent down to OVW a second time for more seasoning, Morgan returned to the main roster with a gimmick that was, well, ironic. The stuttering giant who was extremely sensitive about his stutter. Every time someone made fun of him, he would fly into a rage. It's hard to believe that anyone backstage thought this character would make a 7-foot guy connect with the audience, but it was pushed to TV anyway. Instead of making Morgan into a new monster, the gimmick made him seem more like an oddball sideshow. Then Morgan left WWE. New Japan looked at his size and thought, let's make him the next big thing. But he couldn't break through, eventually moving to All Japan and then wandering through independent promotions before landing in TNA. While WWE floundered, TNA, despite its own set of problems, understood what they had in Morgan. They didn't try to overdo it. Matt Morgan was huge, so they let him run up and hit a pump kick to the chest, which was enough to make an impression. He was quickly pushed into a significant position, holding the tag team titles twice, solidifying his name in the company. However, that was pretty much his ceiling there. TNA never fully pulled the trigger on the blueprint, even though he was a solid wrestler, had fan support, and was one of the few examples of someone who truly improved after leaving WWE. Now the mayor of Longwood, Florida, Matt Morgan will always be a symbol of a wrestler with almost all the right qualities but never given the chance to reach his full potential. Number 8. Bobby Lashley. Here's another true Vince McMahon wrestler. Big, muscular, and with a clean record. When Bobby Lashley signed in 2005, Vince immediately saw a major project. With a physique like a statue and impressive amateur wrestling credentials, Lashley was quickly labeled a future star and appeared frequently on TV. In his SmackDown debut, Lashley was introduced with a long list of achievements. Multiple-time National Amateur Wrestling Champion, All-American, Military Champion, and medalist at the Military World Championship. Reading through that resume was a reminder, this is no ordinary person. The message was clear, this guy is going to be big, pay attention. Next came the textbook build-up, an undefeated streak similar to Goldberg's, crushing opponent after opponent, with the US title as a stepping stone. On paper, he had everything, strength, speed, and a solid background. But the fans didn't connect with him. They saw a well-constructed machine, not a character they genuinely wanted to cheer for. Lashley was moved to ECW to take the next step, where he won the ECW title at the infamous December to Dismember pay-per-view. For hardcore ECW fans, Lashley was the embodiment of WWE's rebranding of the brand, leading to a negative reception. Vince didn't back down, continuing to push Lashley, even playing the opponent himself on TV to help elevate him. Just as things seemed to be set up for him, injury struck. Lashley required surgery and was sidelined at the start of 2008, leaving the company with his career feeling unfinished. He transitioned to TNA, with a few MMA bouts mixed in, and returned to Impact in 2014, where he became one of the company's rare bright spots, holding multiple singles titles and wearing a small headband. Ironically, that was during a time when few people cared about Impact. By the time Lashley returned to WWE in 2018, he was in his 40s, still in great shape and wrestling well, but the golden window for building a top star had passed. From being marked as the next successor, Bobby Lashley ended up as just a big name, never reaching the top position WWE had once hoped for him. Number 7. Vladimir Kozlov. Remember Vladimir Kozlov? This cold-faced giant was introduced as a Sambo expert, kickboxing skilled, and the next big thing of 2008. Kozlov was portrayed as a walking brick wall, a fighting machine embodying the patriotic Russian warrior image, despite being born in Ukraine. The way he was introduced made it clear WWE intended for him to be a top-tier threat. But when he stepped into the ring, things weren't as impressive. Kozlov's in-ring style was solid but slow, with heavy steps. While his size was imposing, he lacked any standout features: baggy white trunks, a square face, and a buzz cut that made him look more like a grumpy geography teacher than a TV superstar. WWE didn't seem to mind though. They just needed a new Russian villain, the only qualification being that he wasn't American. So Kozlov was quickly pushed to the top of the card, becoming a Cold War-era antagonist. The question of, when will WWE stop using this motif, almost always had the same answer: "Niet." Kozlov crushed the lower half of the roster, racking up wins and eventually being inserted into the Survivor Series main event in a WWE title triple threat match with Jeff Hardy and champion Triple H. Later, Hardy was replaced by Edge, but the outcome remained unchanged. Kozlov didn't win the title but also wasn't pinned, keeping some of his aura intact. Ironically, Kozlov's most memorable moment in WWE came not as the Moscow Butcher, but when he teamed up with Santino Marella. This odd couple quickly became a comedic duo. They won the tag titles and appeared in a Tea Party segment on Raw, where Kozlov unexpectedly showed off a comedic side completely different from his initial robotic demeanor. From that point on, his serious push was effectively over. The athlete who was once built as an unstoppable monster was now just a piece of the comedy team. Not long after, Vladimir Kozlov quietly disappeared from WWE, marking the end of the story of a successor who never reached the potential the company once envisioned for him. Number 6. Ahmed Johnson. Before WWE entered the chaotic Attitude Era, Ahmed Johnson was being primed to become one of the company's brightest stars. Yet now, he's mostly remembered for his incomprehensible promos in WWE video games rather than his real-life career. Ahmed's appearance was like a bizarre mix of Road Warrior Hawk and Jax from Mortal Kombat: bursting muscles, a permanently tense face, and a vibe that screamed, "Touch me and you're dead." Debuting in 1995, Johnson was quickly pushed into the spotlight, defeating a series of opponents and becoming the first African-American Intercontinental Champion after just 6 months on the roster. The future seemed wide open. He paired with Shawn Michaels, appeared in prominent spots, and quickly became a top contender for the WWE title. But then, his body started to speak up. A severe kidney issue forced Ahmed to take nearly 4 months off, causing him to miss SummerSlam 1996, lose his spot in the title picture, and forfeit the Intercontinental title he had just won. Just as he was climbing the ranks, someone pulled the handbrake. When he returned, Ahmed got involved in a feud with Farouk, which escalated into a Chicago street fight at WrestleMania 13, where he became an honorary member of the Legion of Doom, facing the Nation of Domination. The match turned into a wild brawl with everyone swinging wooden planks, resembling Jim Duggan on a Red Bull binge with a few friends. Next, Ahmed was booked to face The Undertaker for the WWF title at In Your House, Canadian Stampede. This should have been a golden opportunity to bring him back into the title picture, but once again, injury struck and derailed the plan. In early 1998, Ahmed left WWE to care for his seriously ill sister. It wasn't until late 1999 that fans saw him again in WCW. The muscle monster persona was gone, replaced by Big T. Nothing to do with Big E, slow, sluggish, and teaming with Stevie Ray in a watered-down version of Harlem Heat 2000. Just 4 months later, his weight issues led to his release, closing the book on the journey of a near star who touched the peak of his potential but never stood firm on it. Number 5. Mr. Kennedy. Mr. Kennedy once had the world in his hands, only to become one of the biggest, almost legends, in WWE history. His gimmick of introducing himself with a microphone, his booming voice echoing across the arena, combined with his natural stage presence, made everyone believe it was just a matter of time before he captured the WWE title. His brief run as the United States champion felt like a warm-up. From there, Kennedy was pushed fast. Victories over The Undertaker, Chris Benoit, and a World Heavyweight title shot against Batista at Royal Rumble 2007. Every time his music played, it was clear, this is the guy they're going to build into the next A-list star. To erase any doubts about him being the next big thing, WWE had Kennedy win the Money in the Bank ladder match at WrestleMania 23. His image standing atop the ladder, holding the briefcase high, looked like a guarantee for a future stardom. Nothing screamed, future of the company, more than that moment. But then everything derailed so quickly, no one saw it coming. Mr. Kennedy became the first superstar to lose the briefcase, dropping it to Edge just 2 months after winning it. Before he could recover from that historic slip, he suffered an injury, taking him off the shelf for a while. When he returned, he continued using the microphone as a weapon, but then got suspended for violating WWE's wellness policy. The timing of his suspension was like a nightmare, as it ruined the biggest push of his career, the storyline that he was Vince McMahon's illegitimate son. See the irony? Instead of waiting for him to return and continue the story, WWE immediately changed course. They inserted Hornswoggle as the lost son, and the McMahon family storyline took an entirely different direction. Kennedy continued to struggle with more injuries and missed opportunities, eventually being released in 2009. Rumors backstage suggested that Kennedy's body was as fragile as Hulk Hogan's ego, which made the company hesitant to invest in him long-term. On the other hand, Kennedy publicly named Randy Orton, hinting that the Viper didn't like him, and that might have been why things went the way they did. After leaving WWE, he joined TNA under the name Mr. Anderson, where he had a decent run, holding the TNA World Heavyweight Championship twice. But no matter how successful he was, fans couldn't forget that he was once standing right at the McMahon family's doorstep, almost becoming one of them on screen, a privilege that might have been bigger than any title. Number 4. Tom Magee. Wrestling fans are often fascinated by urban legends. Did Christopher Daniels ever actually get chosen as the original higher power? Was Sting ever close to becoming the third man in NWO? Was the Montreal Screwjob a massive setup? The answers: no, and still no. But for years, no story has been whispered more than the legend of Tom Magee. Standing nearly 6 feet 5 inches, with muscles that looked like they were carved from stone, and a face that screamed, "Look at me, I was born to be in the spotlight," Tom Magee was considered by many in the industry as the next version of Hulk Hogan. Everything about Magee, his build, strength, hair, and charisma, shouted, "This is the next champion." Yet, instead of becoming an icon, Magee became a legend passed on through stories. Rumors about Tom Magee spread like wildfire: the runner-up in the 1982 World's Strongest Man contest, his stunning debut against Riki Choshu in All Japan that nearly drove Dave Meltzer wild, and most importantly, a lost match with Bret Hart, which became the holy grail of tape collectors for decades. The story went that this match was so incredible that it redefined the genre, and was said to be better than even Kenta Kobashi versus Mitsuharu Misawa, The Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels, or even Lenny Lane versus El Dandy. It sounded like a prehistoric legend no one had actually seen with their own eyes. Finally, in 2019, that elusive tape was released. And yes, it was good, especially when you consider the time it was made. Tom Magee looked like a superhero, a series of fluid arm drags, flips, and backflips, moving much smoother than his bulky frame suggested. It said that Vince McMahon was so excited, he screamed from the gorilla position, "That's our next champion!" But upon closer inspection, it became clear, the true soul of the match wasn't Tom Magee, but Bret Hart. Bret orchestrated the entire match, guiding the pace and elevating his opponent, making Magee look like a phenomenon. It was the kind of thing that could turn even a broomstick into a watchable opponent. After that performance, Mega Man continued to appear in dark matches, facing a variety of other wrestlers. But soon enough, Vince realized a harsh truth: without the right opponent, Tom Magee was just a big guy who could fight at a mediocre level, with nothing truly remarkable about him. The second coming of Hulk Hogan faded like soap bubbles. Instead of becoming a new era for WWE, Tom Magee quietly faded away from the spotlight. The Hulk Hogan successor rode off into the sunset, a literal giant cowboy whose story was told more in side conversations than in the official history books. Number 3. Magnum TA. In the golden age of NWA in the 70s and 80s, winning the World Heavyweight Championship wasn't just something anyone could achieve, it was an honor. For 2 decades, only 11 names had held the title, all legends in their own right: Harley Race, Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes. And for a time, it was widely believed that another name would join this holy club: Magnum TA. Imagine a blonde all-American version of Jake the Snake Roberts, with a bit of Tom Selleck's charm from Magnum TA tossed into the mix, all thrown into the world of American wrestling. That was Magnum TA born Terry Allen. He started working with various NWA territories when he was just 18, eventually landing in Mid-South Wrestling with Bill Watts. There, his persona as the young, brave, and strong-willed American heartthrob, who fought passionately and spoke earnestly, made the crowd go wild. By 1984, when he signed with Jim Crockett Promotions, the question wasn't whether he'd reach the top of NWA, but when he would. The love from fans was unstoppable, and his 2 reigns as NWA United States Champion only intensified the buzz around Magnum TA. As champion, he entered into a heated feud with Tully Blanchard and the Four Horsemen, then moved on to a legendary best-of-7 series with Nikita Koloff, a feud still talked about fondly by old-school fans. Everything seemed set for a historic moment. Rumors swirled that Magnum would defeat Ric Flair at Great American Bash 1987 to become the NWA World Heavyweight Champion, officially ushering in the next generation of stars. But that ending was never meant to be. In October 1986, while driving his Porsche home, Magnum lost control and crashed hard, with the car nearly wrapping around a telephone pole. It was a miracle he survived, and doctors feared he'd never walk normally again. At just 27 years old, Terry Allen was forced to retire immediately. However, he didn't completely disappear. Magnum TA still made appearances in NWA and later WCW, taking on behind-the-scenes roles and even working as a commentator. For fans of the old school, just mentioning his name brings up endless stories of how great he was and how he made people believe in him. Magnum TA will forever be one of the most heartbreaking, what could have been, stories in wrestling history. A successor who was ready, but whose fate just didn't align. Number 2. Lex Luger. Has there ever been a more dramatic fall than Lex Luger's time in WWE? It's hard to imagine. Once one of the standout faces of early WCW, Lex moved to Vince McMahon's World Bodybuilding Federation in 1992, where Vince's eyes nearly popped out of his head when he saw Luger's physique, looking like a Greek statue. The WBF quickly crumbled, and Lex was moved over to WWE, debuting in 1993 as the Narcissist, a character so self-obsessed he almost seemed unhinged. Accompanied by Bobby Heenan, who stood by wide-eyed, the duo was the perfect embodiment of Vince's fascination. Then Hulk Hogan disappeared, leaving a massive red, white, and blue void on posters, and immediately, Luger was rebranded as the All-American Hero, performing a body slam on WWE Champion Yokozuna aboard a massive ship. The signals were clear. Luger was being groomed to be the company's new face. But there was a small issue. The audience didn't quite buy into the image. They cheered, but it was more of a polite, "Okay, he's fine," rather than the deafening support Hogan received. Vince tried to boost fan sentiment by having Luger tour the country on a huge bus, painted with American flags, shaking hands, taking photos, and smiling all the way. The Lex Express campaign, to be fair, generated some positive buzz, but at the same time, Bret Hart was winning fans over more quickly and deeply, and they quietly began to rally behind Hitman as WWE's future face. In this changing atmosphere, Lex started to look like a bit of a dated decoration. The stiff smile, the small mullet, and the tired look. At SummerSlam, he won against Yokozuna by countout, only to be celebrated as if he had won the title, while the actual championship remained with his opponent. That was one of the most pitiful moments in WWE history. You couldn't help but feel bad for a guy who was promised so much but couldn't secure the title. Another failed championship opportunity at WrestleMania X shattered any hopes for a title run, and the quest for that top spot was effectively over. Lex knew his time had passed. Quietly, he packed up and drove the Lex Express back to WCW. His return to WCW was much more promising. Luger was the first to dethrone Hollywood Hogan for the title held by the NWO. But every time Lex Luger's name comes up, people remember his awkward fall from grace in WWE, where a successor was carefully crafted, only to be swept away by the changing winds of the times. Number 1. Ryback. Do you remember the time when WWE practically shoved Ryback down your throat every week and screamed, "This is the next big thing, please love him"? Yes, that period. The muscle-bound, bald guy with bulging eyes, constantly yelling, "Feed me more." Every time he came out, packaged as the new, unstoppable wrecking machine, Goldberg for the PG era. Ryback was reintroduced as a monster who never seemed to tire, plowing through jobbers week after week, taking out 2 or 3 guys at a time like they were bags of sand. The media built him up as the next destructive wrestler. Few words, lots of action, spine busters, shell shocks, done. The crowd responded well at first, chanting, "Feed me more," all over the arenas, and you could tell WWE was silently branding him as the next successor. The pinnacle came when Ryback jumped straight into the WWE title picture, facing CM Punk. From squashing jobbers, he was suddenly thrust into the main event at Hell in a Cell for the WWE Championship, complete with drama, a special referee, and a high-stakes rivalry. The issue was, WWE wanted to keep the title on Punk, but they didn't want Ryback to lose clean. The result was a chaotic series of matches, with interference, dirty tricks, and Ryback's invincible aura slowly deflating. Once the fans realized, "Oh, he's just another big guy, but he keeps losing," his fear factor quickly faded. Ryback was shuffled between being a heel and a face, sometimes angry, sometimes comedic, and eventually became the type of bully who picked on smaller opponents, a complete departure from his original image. He won some titles, including the Intercontinental Championship, but it felt more like a consolation prize than a true top star milestone. Instead of becoming the new Goldberg, Ryback slowly turned into a living meme, with awkward promos, backstage controversies, and constant complaints about being misused. In the end, he left WWE amid a cloud of frustration, going from a potential successor to yet another classic example of a character rushed to the top with no long-term plan. Ryback had all the things Vince loved: big, intimidating, and eye-catching on posters. But in the eyes of fans, he was just another almost the next monster to dominate, only to be brought down by repetitive losses, confusing character changes, and a botched push that never quite reached the top. Those were the successors, who had their paths to the top paved but never reached it. If you enjoyed this type of content, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the Wrestling Sphere channel so you don't miss the next video.